have no idea what I'm doing. So we're just gonna come up with it as we go along, I guess. I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. You can see all my notes that I made for this video. The only reason I have this book is because I think it's on loan. I'm not totally sure. My friend let me borrow it, but she also hasn't asked for it back. So like, is it mine then? Because when she gave it to me, she was like, you'll probably finish it before I do, so you can go ahead and like read it.
So I am confusion.
Like, I can keep it? Up for debate, you tell me. First of all, I just like to say, it's so pretty. It's so pretty. The cover is just so on brand for me. I could look at this book all day. Let's start with the author's writing. So I've never heard of her stuff before. So that's fun. And I know it's become really popular over COVID. So many people love this book, and so many people have said how like devastatingly sad it is, so I was a little scared to read it, and it is such a great book. It's so excellently written. For the most part, the way she sets up the book is she'll start with like a chapter from the past, and then she'll do a chapter in the present. She split the book into 7 sections. Within each section, she starts the chapters over again. At the beginning of each section, she gives a description on an art piece. I believe only like one of them is real. I don't actually know. So here's an example. And she writes the story in 3rd person, which is, I think, a really smart choice for this book. I think gives a more accurate telling what's going on. Does that make sense? Another thing I was going to point out is that the character Addie lives to be 300 plus years old. Because of that, her story starts in a small town in France, Vion-sur-Sarthe. My French friend's gonna make fun of me for that, I'm sure. But it starts in this small town in France in 1714. And what's interesting is I'm actually taking a historic costumes class, learning about what people wore throughout time. And so what Addie LaRue wears throughout the time periods, when it is mentioned, is fairly accurate. She is on point with that. And that is just some brownie points for her and her excellence. Like, do I spoil the book or do I not spoil the book? Long story short, if I can even do that, I'm usually very bad. I always ramble, if you don't already know that. So the plot of the book follows a girl named Addie LaRue, and it basically follows her life over the course of 300 plus years, because when she was living in France, she was always a very stubborn person who didn't want to listen to rules, wanted to be very independent and free. Of course, during that time, that doesn't really happen. She eventually becomes old enough to marry, but she prolongs it as much as possible. She goes and runs off to the town's like crazy old lady named Estelle. And so Estelle tells her to start praying, except to not pray after dark, because those are the dark spirits that you don't want to mess with, and they will ruin you one way or another. Addie gets wrapped into this marriage. The day comes when Addie's supposed to get married, and she is losing her mind. So she decides, nah, fuck it, I'm running away. She's booking it. She's like, I'm not marrying this man. You cannot make me. Goodbye. She like trips and falls, and she starts praying her butt off. When she starts praying, she doesn't realize that the sun is going down, and this dark entity who doesn't label himself as God or the devil or anything, he's just darkness, and the darkness ends up being called Luke. He emerges as a fictional man that Addie conjured up. She's like, what is happening? Basically, she starts pleading for a bunch of stuff. He says, I decline. And then she says, you want an ending, then take my life when I'm done with it. You can have my soul when I don't want it anymore. And then he says, done. And so once she makes that deal, a lot of shit goes wrong because she did not set enough specific parameters to their deal, and so she cannot be remembered by anyone. She cannot speak her own name or write it down or pay for anything. She can't have a job, she can't have a home. Like, it is as if she no longer exists. Fast forward 300 years, it's 2014 in New York City, and she's going about her day, and she meets this guy Henry, and she steals a book from the bookstore that Henry works at, and he stops her and he lets her go because she picks up this really ratty old version of the Odyssey, I think. And so she goes back a few days later because she finishes the book, and she's thinking, oh well, I'll just like switch them out and steal another book. And she gets caught again because Henry says, I remember you stole that book the other day. And she's like, what? She's like, oh my gosh, I have been waiting 300 years to make a genuine human connection with someone, and now I can. And I should cut myself off there because that is basically the plot of the book without giving away the rest of it. I'm just gonna talk about the rest of it. Why not? The book switches from Henry's point of view, and you get to learn a bit about him. He also made a deal with Luke, and his was to be like loved and appreciated by everyone. So when Henry runs into like anyone on the street, there's a cloud that goes over their eyes. Like, they immediately like him, whether it's like a physical attraction or like, oh, you remind me of this person I love. And when he meets Addie, she doesn't have that cloud, and like, oh my gosh, she's not part of this curse that I have. And then she's like, oh my god, he's not part of this curse that I have. They end up forming a relationship over this, and they're like, we have to enjoy this while we can because we don't want Luke to come in and F it up. He does. So it turns out Henry was lying about the circumstances of his deal. He asked for a year, and then Luke would be able to take his soul. Adeline finds out about this. She's like, I'm gonna make another deal with Luke. So then when she's making this deal with him, she's like, fine, you give Henry more time and you can finally have me. And you can have me until you no longer want me. He's like, deal. Which is not how I thought it was gonna end. When Henry's time ran out and he was giving up his soul, then she would finally surrender to Luke and give her soul as well. That was my prediction. I don't know, I was kind of hoping they'd both like go out together, but that didn't happen. So then after that, Henry wakes up the next day, Addie's gone, and she told him, all I want for you to do is remember. And as they were dating, he was writing down all the stories that she told him about her life, and he goes and writes a book on Addie LaRue, but he doesn't put his name on it. But so basically, in this fictional world, he wrote this book, and in that world, this is the only evidence we have of Addie, which is super cute. I tried to emotionally detach myself from this book because a lot of this book centers around like death and like not having enough time to do anything, and that's a terrifying concept to me because my biggest fear, call it irrational or rational, whatever, is death. So like the idea of living forever and not having anyone know you is horrible, and also making a deal with the devil of only having a year left and that's still not being enough time is also horrible. I was talking with my friend and she was saying how, oh, it kind of sounds nice to be Addie, and I would almost prefer to be like more of a vampire, like in the originals or Vampire Diaries, where you can do what you want, you have the ability to sire, but you can still make relationships with people and have people in your life. Like, I think I would prefer that sort of immortality than Addie's immortality. I don't think I'd handle that well. Oh well, I don't think I used really any of these sticky notes to talk about the books, so I guess this was useless. But yeah, final thoughts. This is a really exquisitely written book. I really enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed the slight history aspects that were included, and it was a refreshing plot. It was not as sad as I was given the impression it would be, and it didn't end it how I thought, and I really thought I had it in the bag with my prediction because I'm usually really bad with those. It's an interesting concept of like Henry wrote the book, but really it was this V.E. Schwab person, so then like are the epilogue chapters really even part of this like fictional imaginary book? I don't know. I don't think it would be. I guess it's, you could argue it is. If you like this video, give it a like, give it a thumbs up. If you want to subscribe, that's cool. I really want to try and make more videos, but it's really a struggle in finding that work-life balance, or just a balance of just everything going on in life is really hard, so we'll see. I'm going on a trip soon, so there will definitely be a little travel vlog thing for that. But yeah, my name is Valerie B. I did not say that at the beginning of the video. And I'm gonna go and drink some water because my throat is parched.